from Berlin, and she wants to know a little bit more about her astrology. So I'm just going to make it as big as I can get it. I was hoping I'd get it a bit bigger than that. Okay, I think that's as big as I can get it. So anyway, Maya is born. This is possibly one of the younger ends of astrology that I look at. Most people that come to me at the moment, like for readings and membership, they're in their, say, 40 plus. And I'm guessing that's because, I'm in my 40s, and I've got clients up to, I think my oldest client is 82. So, yeah, I'm sort of covering sort of like midlife to sort of, as we get older and how we might transcend ourselves. So it's nice and refreshing to get a chart of somebody born in 1998, very much early on in their life. And yet we can always have these questions, can't we, about what's going on? So as I'm looking at Maya's chart, she's born on the 22nd of May, 1998 in Berlin, Germany at 2020. Do you know what? I think I've made a mistake there. Oh, no, 22:20, which is 10:20 p.m. and in universal time 2020. Okay, that's why it's showing up. So she's born with her ascendant in the sign of Sagittarius, and that's ruled by the planet Jupiter. So Jupiter's her ruler. That's a really important planet here. So I'm just going to unpick her chart a little bit and get a feel for what's going on. Now, if you've watched this show before, you'll know that there are sort of patterns that the planets make, and it's always quite interesting to have a good look. And what I noticed instantly is that she's got a lot going on down here in the 4th house. So she's got the moon, and the moon is in an exact conjunction with this angle here, which is really, really important in the chart. Very much about the home, very much about the mum, very much about the behaviors that come from childhood and how she can make her own way in the world. She's also got Venus in a tight conjunction there as well. And then later she's got Saturn, and then she's got Ceres and Mercury as well. So this is a lot to unpack, and I will give it a fair good look at it. What I noticed that's really important, and it might be what's prompted her to ask me for a read, is her Chiron, Chiron, where it's transiting, i.e., let me just backtrack a little bit. All these symbols here in black represent where the planets and asteroids were that I've selected and put in here. It's representing where everything was at the time, place, and date of her birth. And if you were to look up at the sky, and if you could actually, with your eye, see where Pluto was, it was in that direction, and the sun was over there, and Venus and the moon were over there, and the North Node is over here. So you kind of are building a picture, and this is her in the middle looking up at the sky to see where everything was. So that's a static picture. It's a snapshot of potential at her time, place, and date of birth. And then all of this green stuff around the outside, all these symbols, are showing the real-time positions of all these planets, because they keep on moving. Just because you get born doesn't mean to say they will stop. There is a continuous transit. There is a continuous development in life. And so right now, her Chiron is in one of the most sensitive places of all. The IC at the bottom, you'll see there are 4 clear angles, and I like to think of them as our north, south, east, and west. They're like our ordinance. It's like our compass, our moral compass, and the ascendant here and everything on this side is really representing everything that is you, or Maya, in terms of this chart, and everything on this side is everyone else other than Maya. And then here at the IC, this is like Maya at her most private and homebound, and her earliest kind of memories and security and stuff. And then up here at the top is Maya in terms of her public persona, and in terms of stepping out into the world, in terms of making her mark. So it's interesting. that right now she's got Chiron, that's known as the wounded healer, moving right over this very sensitive place. So I think this is a time of quite possibly some anxiety about her future. I say that a bit lightly, actually, because I know what it's like to have Chiron go over one of our angles. It's troubling. It brings up emotions. It brings up stuff from our past. It usually brings up stuff from our childhood, hurts that we haven't really quite got a grip on. What I like about this, I have to say, is that it's happening right now. So Maya, she's born when's she born? 1998, and we're in 2023. So she is 25, if I've calculated that correctly. Hopefully I have. So she's 25, and she's got Chiron going over this, which is very, very sensitive. I think 25 is a good age to be able to review what your childhood was like and what your pain and, like that unhealable wound that we've all got at some level. She's getting to deal with hers at 25, which might sound a bit young, but can you imagine how great it would be to get rid of that and to understand it and to be able to make sense of her, her original wound, and be able to close on it or mature on it or integrate it somehow. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, when I think about when did my life come together and how did I start to put things in a sort of cohesive way, I would say that didn't really happen for me until I was about 36. And then you're playing catch up a little bit. So I think that's kind of a gift, actually, Maya. I don't know if you're listening in live now, because I know you're in Germany, so it's probably 11:30 at night. You're probably in bed. But, what's going on for you right now is actually a bit of a gift, even though it probably doesn't feel like it, because Chiron brings up what is the most rawest experience for us. And, the moon represents the mum at some level. And it also represents our psyche, our intuition, what we're sensing about the world, not what we're being rational about. It's like, what are we sensing? And so at some level, you're sensing pain, you're sensing and remembering, the pain of the past. And it's very, very real. And anyone that's trying to talk you out of it and saying, oh, Maya, shut up, don't go down that route or whatever, they're kind of gaslighting you. They're deregulating, and they might not be doing it out of malice. I'm sure they're not. They're probably doing it because it seems like the right thing to do. But it's really important that you trust your intuition right now, because it's vital that you trust your intuition, because if you don't trust your intuition, you'll not be able to get to the core of what's going on for you. It feels like something from your childhood to do with how you were raised, to do with how vulnerable you could be, how vulnerable you could allow yourself to be, is now up for discussion or is up for rethinking. So it's a very, very sensitive time. And you've also got Venus here. It looks like Venus is here, but that's where Saturn is. But Venus is actually here. The moon is right here where Chiron is. So, Venus is here in this very, very sensitive place. And Venus at some level represents the love flows, what we're going through, how we connect to others. And, with Venus and the moon together very close to the IC, I mean, this is somebody that can connect to pretty much anyone. You've learned from an early age to really connect and really feel people and really know how to get a rapport and stuff. And yet there's some pain about it. Now, if you're lucky, you've already worked through some of this pain. And actually what's coming out now is you're being connected to the guru side of your development. I always think anything that we resist comes back to us again and again and again. But if we look at what might be bothering us and we get the chance to get great at it, we get the chance to learn through it, to move through it, then we start attracting gurus and coaches and mentors and somebody who's maybe a step above. And by saying above, instantly I want to say we get a guide by the side. There's no reason to assume that somebody's higher or lower than you, but there's the opportunity to commune with somebody who has maybe slightly more relevant experience that can guide you through this. So what I want you to know right now is whatever's going on, you're not alone. And if you can, like, the more vulnerable you are, because I think with Chiron, one of the most important things is to allow ourselves to be vulnerable and to not hide under shame or guilt that we can't cope. But to actually say, actually, look, I'm a real human, and actually I feel pain about this. And the reason I feel pain about this is because, and I really would like your help. And, then you give somebody the chance to either work with you or to refuse working with you. And that's why so few of us actually do that. Most of us are so frightened of being rejected, and what, and we have these meanings that we make the rejection mean. And it feels too high risk. But actually right now, Maya, as you ask for help and as you make yourself vulnerable, you're not making yourself powerless. That's the thing I want you to know. You're actually making yourself so much more powerful. And the more you can ask for help and the more you can reveal your hand in good faith, and with a sense of optimism, I think there's going to be some really good mentors around that are going to kind of almost come into your life like angels. They're just going to either pop in or fly in. They're going to come in with a lovely glowing halos, and they're going to be there at your service. They're going to be there to help you. It's a really good time to be open and transparent, because as you do that, you'll learn new ways of being resourceful. You'll learn new ways of making it on your own, which is actually what every person that feels vulnerable wants to do. And I can see, like, your moon is in the sign of Aries. That's pretty independent. Your ascendant's in the sign of Sagittarius. That makes you super independent. And then your sun is at 1 degree in the sign of Gemini. That makes you really independent. Moreover, like, your sun is in a conjunction with Mars. That makes you, again, really independent and really determined. And, my comment about that, from one independent person to another, is sometimes we miss a lot of quality. We miss a lot of support by being independent and wanting to do everything on our own. And the more you can open up right now, and show your card, show your weaknesses, because actually your weaknesses, the whole idea of having weaknesses and strengths it's all just like material for something. It's not really true. None of it's really true. But the openness that you show is a real strength. And the more open you can be, the more people can step in and support you and stand by your side and actually help lift you up. Because ultimately, with the sun in Gemini, you really do want to progress. You really do want to experience life. You really do want to do things that are different and interesting and wonderful and crazy. And you want to meet people, you want to think things, you want to read things, learn things, all these kinds of things. So much like richness for you. And with your ascendant in the sign of Sagittarius, I mean, you want to expand. You don't want to be stuck in one spot doing the same thing 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Why would you want to do that? You don't. You want to do something new. And I'm here to let you know that the more you trust other people, the more likely it is that the most appropriate form of freedom and expansion will arrive on your doorstep. When you try and do it on your own, you'll probably get there anyway, but you'll be doing it on your own. You won't be having the comfort of someone else's guidance. You won't be having the comfort and the support of somebody who's done it and is wanting to help you learn yourself. So be open, be as open as possible. And this will pass, this rawness. And, I don't know what this rawness is about, but whatever it is that you're feeling raw and shocked about, it will move on. And the easiest way for you to process it right now is to let somebody else in and ask for help. Now, there's a couple more things I just want to comment on. because they're quite significant. The first one is Pluto's position to Neptune. And this is something everyone your age is going through right now. Pluto is all about where we're trying to control things. Maybe because we're getting old enough to realize that we don't actually have much control. And that's a hard thing to learn. But Neptune here shows that everything is possible, and that there are no boundaries. And Neptune shows where we can be creative. It also shows where we can be magnificently loving, but it also shows where we can be complete shits and lie, and where we can deliberately use subterfuge and confuse people. So I think Neptune really shows us where we can become really addicted to things, and also where we can really want to believe that something is true and kid ourselves. And so Pluto coming into this, I think, is an awakening energy, which is really strong. And given how active and independent your ascendant, moon and sun are, and Mars, I would say, this awakening period is actually in your benefit. It's there to open you up to realize that nobody has any control over anything, apart from we have control over our feelings. And if we can master our feelings, we can do so much more than if we're trying to master everything and not being able to achieve any of it. Because when we try to impose ourselves on situations, we're going to fail. But when we can use discernment and mastery in the way we're thinking, and we can affect our feeling, because we're being mindful, then you've got a chance to change things, and then you've got a chance to bring in this lovely, magnificent, unconditional love, unconditional creativity, and stuff like that. So this is a big thing. You're not doing this on your own. Everyone your age is doing this right now, and the big key is to realize what you can control and what you can't. I think a lot of people in your generation are thinking, and to be fair, they've been told that if they come together and they complain, and if they stand strong together, they're going to make a change in the world. And that's not really true necessarily. In many respects, it's a load of bullshit that's being told to them to distract them so that they feel they're powerful, even when they might not be in their true power. To be in your true power, Maya, is to accept that you can't control anyone else, but all of the control is in you to, work out how you feel, and to decide, like, if something awful is happening, the best thing that you can do is know that it's in your control and your power to recognize something is awful, then consider how you feel about it, and then think, okay, I've got a choice. Where do I want to put my feeling here? And I know that sounds rational, and a little bit too measured and considered, but we do have power over only our stuff. There's not much we can do about where our stuff meets the stuff of other people. There's really little control any of us have. And so I see this as a big thing that's coming up in your generation, and it will affect you. So the more you can just trust yourself and be open and recognize that you always have the choice in how you feel, even if it feels like things are done to you, even if it feels like you're a victim of things, you always have the choice, and that's going to really help you. You've got Saturn coming into a conjunction with your South Node, reminding you of old responsibilities that you've always had. Now, if you're perceiving, if you can perceive old lives and past lives and stuff, it might be this remembrance of something. But effectively, what this is doing is reminding you of the strengths that you're born with. So maybe, and this is where I'm going to leave this reading, I think. Think about the things that your parents said about you as a child, and the things that they told you off for, or said, oh, she's rubbish because of this. What I want to share with you is this concept that I learned from Access Consciousness. And that is, what's wrong with you? Hang on, let me get this right. It's kind of like the wrongness of you is the rightness of you. And so I may not have said that right, but think of all the things you were always, like, people had against you. Like for me, like growing up, in the late 70s, early 80s in England. I had a limp, I had glasses, I had red hair, crooked teeth, and I was bright at school and very, very creative. And, you know, it's not the recipe for being like the most loved person. But, oh, and I asked lots of questions, and I had like psychic awareness, and there was always this feeling that my psychic awareness and my openness was a problem for everybody else. And it was like, that was the problem. That's the thing that's wrong with you. You think too much, you're too sensitive. So think about all those things that were said about you and consider them now from the perspective that all that was wrong with you is actually where you're special, where you're unique, and where you're right. And if you can hold on to those things and look at them with a new sense of possibility and a new sense of self-love, add that into the new sense of, okay, I'm going to be vulnerable, and the new sense of, I can't control other people's behavior or demand other people's certain behaviors. All I can control is how I am. And if you can get those three principles right in your life, you are setting yourself up to succeed and enjoy and be free. And I can see when I look at your chart, what you crave the most is freedom of expression and the freedom to live the life that you want to create. And I think you will get there. I'm really sure of it. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. I really do. And I'd love to hear more from you. And if I do, that's great. And if I don't, that's also great, because I know there's always, anyone that listens in, I think is, they get something from this as well. These readings aren't, they're created, they're co-created for the purpose. I'm getting a few likes coming in. That's lovely. Thank you so much. I really think that whatever comes out in these readings is for everyone. It's not just about the person whose reading I'm doing. So there you go.